It all ties together. You have the West training the Free Syrian Army, which is 90% al-Qaeda, ISIS. We've had Colonel Schaefer on others to document that. Now major think tanks, and I've got it here in my stack, have come out, Brookings, you name it, and said, yes, we confirmed. In fact, here's one of them. Confirmed U.S. operation rooms backing al-Qaeda in Syria. U.S. policy think tank Brookings Institution confirms that, contrary to propaganda, U.S. Saudi moderates and Turkey, Qatar Islamicists have been coordinating all along. And then they're coordinating and commanding the groups in America, the UK, and the EU. So do you understand? I've told you this 500 times in the last 4 years or more. 500's conservative. And now I said you'll see them hit schools, convention centers, shopping malls, universities, things like that. And they won't have to have totally controlled groups. These are mentally ill bots hired by the jihadi commanders who themselves are funded and protected by the West and who can fly all over the world. Paul, this has reached outer limits on LSD. This has reached Twilight Zone on PCP. This has reached Bonkerland, DMT, Crazy Town, that our governments would do this publicly thinking they won't get caught or get in trouble. This is after the military figured out what was going on and said no 2 years ago. They just changed the name to ISIS, had them invade Iraq to resupply, with our military ordered to drop stuff to the Kurds, but really it's to them. I mean, this is so transparent, so obvious. Cy Hirsch came out 2 years ago and said the whole bin Laden thing's fake, didn't happen. He got put under pressure. So now he's come out, the two-time Pulitzer Prize winner, and said, well, they basically raided a safe house and, shot him, but nobody else shot at him, and most of the story's not true, and those are staged photos in the Situation Room, blah, blah, blah. No, it's beyond that. Paul Watson finishing up with this and getting into the huge news of ISIS saying they're about to hit with imminent attacks, showing the bombs and the packaging of the shrapnel weapons, the fragmentation devices that they're going to use. This is unprecedented. And do you think this is a Western intelligence agency doing this to get more funding? Or do you think they're really about to green light their 200,000-man jihad force paid for by U.S., British, and EU taxpayers?
Well, there's kind of a disconnect, isn't there, Alex, where people say, well, ISIS doesn't exist, it's all CIA, whatever, but we created these people by training the Syrian rebels in the first place, some of whom went on to join Jabhat al-Nusra, who then pledged allegiance to ISIS. So you can follow the trail. What's now emerging is these images of explosives, weapons, and suicide belts aren't to be found anywhere else on the internet, which suggests that these individuals on Twitter didn't just grab these pictures from Google Images and post them on Twitter. They're actual original images. And then one of the accounts that's making these threats is reportedly affiliated with another individual or an account affiliated with the Garland attack. Of course, we know that threat was tweeted out 15 minutes before the first shots were fired. So it appears that this is a genuine threat. It's not just wannabe ISIS sympathizers. It's actual terrorists who are tweeting out these images of explosives. Most of the accounts have now been suspended since we put our article out. But it's of drastic concern because we saw it happen just over a week ago in Garland.
And we had our Facebook suspended. It was going to be for a lengthy period, but backlash, they put it back up because we were exposing these groups. I mean, there's a clear bias against free speech. And folks, listen, the government knows what's going on. The establishment knows. Even the decompartmentalized, groups out there don't really like what's happening. It's very small criminal groups that are doing this, and most of the government is compartmentalized. The reason this show is so popular amongst government around the world is they know we know what we're talking about. And imagine, they can't go anywhere else and hear these real issues actually broken down. But it's not because we're special. It's because the mainstream media is bought and paid for. And as the late Gore Vidal, who I had the pleasure to interview 5 different times, once in person, an amazing mind, to keep information from the public is the function of the corporate media, Gore Vidal. And boy, talk about the apple falling far from the tree. That's Al Gore's uncle. But he exposed 9/11 as an inside job. He exposed synthetic terror and how the West was funding jihadi groups. And now it's all come out, 14 years after we first broke it, that Saudi Arabia, bare minimum, was protected and allowed the attacks of 9/11 to take place and financed them. And for that, I was royally demonized, royally attacked. I had the system go after me at every single level. And I'm not here wanting you to say, oh, thank you, you're a hero. I want you to understand the intel we've got, the understanding we've got, the info we've got, the narrative we've got is dead bang on. We know the enemy. We know who they are. We know the globalist master plan. We know their long-term program. We know their tricks. We know their playbooks. We understand their operations. And that's why every day, 200 to 500 news articles misrepresenting, lying, building straw men, attacking us. The globalists are really freaked out because they know that we got their number. They know that people like Cy Hirsch were in communication with us, asking us questions about sources and things like that. They know I've got real sources. They've tried to dry them all up, but people are just sick of it and are talking. What do you think Governor Abbott knows? What do you think Senator Cruz knows? As much as I know, they know even more. And here's my job, and here's Paul Watson's job, and here's my great crew's job. We're here to make it safe to talk about this stuff, to hit the barbed wire first, to lead the assault team in the info war, to take the machine gun nest, the pillbox. We're here to take the heat, walk point, come under attack, hit it, get everybody looking at the documents so that it's safe for everybody else to follow. And that's fine. I'm charging all the way in, leading the assault. But just understand, we are the tip of the spear, the very front line. And if we can hold the globalists back and expose their programs and expose the private Federal Reserve and expose the globalists and get other talk show hosts doing it and other writers and research doing it, there'll be so many of us, we'll reach critical mass, they can't stop us or shut us all down. And ladies and gentlemen, I believe we've already crossed that point, and the enemy was arrogant, and that's why they're freaking out right now. And listen, I'm angry behind the scenes. I'm frustrated. I want to do a better job. I want to reach more people. I want to be able to give you all the research and data. I want to defeat these people. This is real. This isn't a game. It's not an act. This is the real deal. Because I've looked at the enemy. I've looked in the enemy's eyes. I've studied the enemy. Paul Watson, spend a few minutes. We're going to let you go. I appreciate your time and the great work you're doing. You've been hammering out articles. You wrote a quick one while we were busy, when you were on hold for 20 minutes. Seymour Hersh flashback, Bin Laden raid, one big lie. We're also posting separately where we expose the full hoax of the Bin Laden killing. We're going to post those interviews up to Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Because quite frankly, I like Cy Hirsch, but we're the ones that exposed it day 2. We're the ones that had the Navy SEAL families on. We're the ones that took the risk. And we're just so conservative about ourselves here that we won't even ever talk about what we've done or what we've been right about. There is a law that I can't break somehow, like a force field to take where we said what was happening and ever expose that we were right. But we're going to break it today. The videos will go up in their own article on Infowars.com. Paul Watson, before we go to break, the state of the world, where do you think the elite are? What do you think's unfolding right now?
Well, geopolitically, they're pouring gasoline on the fire, Alex. I mean, look at this headline out of CBS from 4 days ago. U.S. troops begin training Syrian rebels to fight ISIS. After everything we've been through, after the Libya catastrophe, after the near mutiny in the US military before the invasion, the attack on Syria, which was stalled at the last minute, they're still sending US troops to train these rebels, flooding the region with weapons, arming the rebels who have defected to ISIS and these other jihadist groups time and time again. And then you look at what's happening in Ukraine. Wall Street Journal last month reported US Army starts to train Ukraine units. You actually dig into who these units are, these brigades. It's the Azov Battalion, which like to string people up on crosses and set fire to them. We had the video last month literally nailing one of these separatist fighters to a cross, setting fire to him as he burned to death. Those are the people that US troops are now training in Ukraine. They're doing the same thing with more bloodthirsty militants in Syria. So how could we be surprised that these attacks, which thankfully in the case of Garland have proven to be sporadic and limited so far, but how can we be surprised that these attacks are now going to be hitting the West after our own governments have encouraged this for years and years at every single turn?
And the motive is let them attack, have the mainstream media never point out that our own governments funded them, created them, protected them, and allow them to attack, and then bet your bottom dollar we're going to be attacked when more attacks happen, Paul, for pointing out that our government allowed it to happen bare minimum.
And now these ISIS jihadists, here's a tweet. Americans take pride in carrying handguns. What's your little gun going to do when an IED explodes, spraying shrapnel faster than sound? So they're now demonizing the Second Amendment.
Oh, they're total cowards.
Exactly.
And our government's going to say, roll over, give your rights up when we get attacked. When we get attacked by their ISIS slobs, we're going to hold our traitorous government accountable. We're putting the narrative out now, and we've been doing it for 4 years. So when your jihad force, globalist, hits America and Europe, you're going to get the blame. You hear that, Obama? You hear that, Henry Kissinger? You hear that, all of you? Northcom, Southcom? You're going to get the blame. Introducing Secret 12, the new Infowars Life vitamin B12 formulation. Now, InfowarsLife.com is excited to announce that we can bring you our most bioactive, powerful form of B12 that has been developed with our exclusive perfected process. Secret 12 is a binary of nutramedical grade, bioavailable coenzyme forms of B12. Secure your revolutionary Secret 12 formula right now at InfowarsLife.com or call 888-253-3139.